Life can change, can you all snap? In an instant. For me, that instant came in the form of a phone call. It was early April 2011. I was living in Los Angeles, pursuing a music career, and when I hung up that phone, I would be back on my way to Long Island, where I'm from, and I would be there for months. Because it turned out that my mom had breast cancer. From that point, I was with her for every pill, every puke, every procedure. Now, there's an interesting phenomenon that occurs during these instantaneous life changes, and that's the fact that all of these seemingly insurmountable things, whether it's the business meeting that you can't cancel, or maybe it's the relationship that you're in with somebody or something that's sucking the life out of you and everybody around you, but when the time is right, you'll deal with that. Or maybe it's simple, like the Netflix series that you can't stop binge watching. What happens to all of those things during these instantaneous life changes? Poof, right? They become trivial, sidelined. What was that? Is that magic? No, it's called a paradigm shift. We've all had them, right? Some of you might be able to think of one off the top of your head, and if you can't, listen, we all went through one collectively. March 2020, when we stopped everything that we were doing to frantically search for toilet paper. Now, you laugh, but some of you still have toilet paper, right? That first paradigm shift of mine, I had been in my own world, pursuing Grammys, world tours, my own line of perfume, right? That moment, totally different. Whole new world, one where time was no longer a luxury. I remember my mom thinking of some of the things in her life that she procrastinated on, kind of dealing with some regret. It was after a particularly tough day of chemo. We were sitting in the living room on her green leather couch watching the Food Network, which never made sense to me because she couldn't keep anything down. But she loved that show, Chopped. I think she had a crush on Bobby Flay. Don't tell my dad. Anyhow, during a commercial break, she turned to me and she said, whenever we went to nice restaurants, I always wanted to order the lobster. But I'd always say, listen to this, when there's a special enough occasion, then I will order the lobster. Had I known this was going to happen, I would have ordered the lobster. Now, in my 45-minute, 60-minute talk, I talk about these when-then statements. We break them down and figure out their accompanying procrastination profiles. We've all got them, unfortunately. We say things like, when I have enough time, when I feel valid enough, when I feel like I have permission from everybody else in my life that really doesn't care, but we wait for that. Or maybe we say this, when things get back to normal. And these things keep us stuck hiding behind our fears and our doubts in comfort zones, and we stay in them for months, years, our lives. 3 days before she passed, we were in that same living room. This time, she was no longer sitting on that green leather couch, but she was lying in a hospice bed, barely able to move or speak. Now, I'm sure many of you have been with people during the last days, moments of their lives. And I mean, my mom, she was exhausted, okay, but she was hanging on for everybody else. So I did for my mom what I never thought I would have to do for her at 59 years old. But I wanted her to know it was okay to let go. So I went up to her bed, I took her hand, and I said, Mommy, we're going to be okay. And no matter what, you won. Now, I wasn't expecting a response, but with what seemed to be every ounce of strength that she had left in that now 70-pound body, she lifted her index finger and pointed at me, like she always did whenever she was about to dole out some life lesson, and said, no, we won. Simple yet profound. She was like my own Yoda, right to the very end. In fact, the last 3 words that she ever said to me, never forget me. She said that, I was like, Ma, how could I ever forget you? Listen, I paint a pretty picture. We fought like cats and dogs, okay? But at the end of the day, she was my best friend. Now, looking back, she knew I can never forget her. But what I believe she meant was never forget the lessons that I lived to teach you. Now, time out. Any of you guys have kids? What do you forget? All right. Kristen just asked. Any of you guys have kids? Okay. Do they ever make you feel like you are talking to a brick wall? Okay. Keep talking. I promise you, no matter what it looks like, they are listening. The morning after my mom passed, my dad came into the room where me, my brother Fred, and my cousin Vinny. I have a cousin Vinny. Doesn't everybody have a cousin Vinny? If it makes you feel better, I also have an Uncle Tony. And my dad, back in the day, they called him Meat Hooks, okay? It's another talk. Anyhow, he came in the room, he sat on the arm of the chair, and through tears, he said, "Let this be a lesson to us all. To live life. If there's something that you want to do," this is for one of you here, "if there's something that you want to do, but you are waiting for the right moment, don't wait. Do it now." Squire Bill Widener once said, and each of you have one of these postcards, and they're not just postcards. Every one of my attendees in every audience I have gets these postcards, and at the end, the whole talk that I give builds up to something called the mountain toss. Now, we got people who climb mountains. My audiences, we toss them, okay? It's not dangerous or anything like that, but we talk about when-then statements, and everybody writes their when-then statement on it. I'll talk about a little bit later. But Squire Bill Widener, do what you can. Everybody say this out loud. Do what you can with what you've, where you. In the weeks and the months following my mom's passing, I was kind of doing that. I was thinking, what the heck could I do now? With what I have left, which felt like nothing from where I am, I was no longer thinking about Grammys, world tours, make it big. What did that even mean? And a lot of times we are stuck in these comfort zones waiting for something ambiguous to happen. But in this case, I started to think of the anthem. What could I do with what I had, where I was? And how it made me feel when I sang that song. I just felt like I was actually doing something for others rather than trying to get a deal. And then I started thinking, I sang that in a few states. I wondered if anybody ever sang it in every state. So I did what we all do when we want to do some major research. And I was able to confirm it had never been done before. So that became my marathon. And my mission was simple. It was use my voice to honor our nation's heroes. My own little unique way of giving back. The crazy thing that happened during that entire 2-year journey, I was like Forrest Gump running all over the country. See, they always put his face on it, but it's really me. Every lesson that my mom drilled into my head, and I talk about 5 of them in my keynote, whether I wanted to hear it or not, it came back front and center like she was coaching me. It gave me the resilience, it gave me the resolve, it gave me the focus, and I was able to complete that journey. How many people want to hear those lessons, by the way? Anybody? Somebody want to hear those lessons? Yeah, me too. But you got to hire me, okay? So you got to call Angela. When I make it big, then I'll give back. That's the thing that I said. I felt like I had to be in a certain position, that I had to be validated by everybody else to do what I found was really what was fulfilling. I ended up collecting thousands and thousands of thank you notes from people all across the country for our deployed military. And you know what? After I finished that mission, I was again thinking, what could I do with what I have where I am? I have a social media following. I have connections with the news now. I have missions that go out every month for veterans. They get their mailboxes filled with cards for their milestone birthdays. So we still get to do things, and it's about figuring out what you can do uniquely with what you have and not waiting for everybody else to say, yes, that's a good idea, let me fund you. Just start, right? Okay, so this is what I believe. Mountains will move when your paradigm shifts. I do not talk about big Herculean efforts. What I give to audiences is the fact that they can have a few 45 minutes to decompress, to refocus, to recalibrate, to recenter. You're putting on events and you have education, you've got industry stuff going on, giving back to your people to be able to realize what their why is, why they joined your association in the first place or their company. Remembering that they came in with a passion to solve a problem, and then politics, work, all the crazy stuff started to, what did it do? It pushed it down. Well, I'm here to pull it out, okay? So at the end of my talks, we do this mountain toss. It literally looks like it snowed everywhere we go. We got to apologize. Everybody's got to clean up, right? They just rip these cards off. They realize their marching orders, their mission is not the thing that they're waiting for. It's the thing that they're putting off. So last minute, 2 keynotes. You also have a healthcare keynote as well. I don't know if any of you are here in that sector, but my signature keynote, Discover Your Mission, 5 lessons from a 50-state journey, resilience keynote, 5 keys to maintaining balance during and after a disruption. I do breakouts. I do give back activities. It's amazing. Grown adults using crayons sometimes. It's pretty impressive. I do meet and greets. I actually used to work at a trade show kind of thing, so I know how to get people to booths. So if you have sponsors that would love to have somebody get people to the booth, I can do that for you. And of course, I could sing the anthem. You don't have to worry about me running off the rails trying to do an American Idol tryout. So in closing, did I make it big? Last time I went to Target, I always check. There was no perfume line named after me. But what I found my mission is to help others discover theirs. Thank you guys so much.